For the Teisho tonight, Tuesday the 6th of August, we'll be continuing to look at the 4 nutriments, the kind of foods that we consume which can nourish us or can make us sick. And these 4 are literal food and drink, which nourish the body, and then sense impressions, volitions, and consciousness, which affect both body and mind. Well, in fact, both literal food also affects the mind, so we can't really divide them up neatly along those lines. And we were looking last time at volition, our desires and intentions, and we're going to continue with that, reading from a chapter in a book by Thich Nhat Hanh, Zen and the Art of Saving the Planet. And the chapter we're reading from is called Right Fuel, Guard Your Mind, Nurture Your Aspiration. And this section is headed, Is it Zen to Dream? And this is one of the sections that's actually written by the editor of the book, Sister True Devotion, I think. You might say Thich Nhat Hanh. Thich is the sort of affectionate term that's used by his students, has always encouraged us to live in the present moment, and now he's telling us to dream about the future. It might be a beautiful dream, but it is still just a dream. What is our greatest hope and aspiration, if not a dream? In Buddhism, the energy of bodhicitta, the mind of love, is not just a dream. Bodhicitta is a reality, a living energy giving us faith and hope. Each moment of our daily lives, our dreams can slowly become reality. Each moment of our daily lives, our dreams can slowly become reality. At a recent example of this, I went to our little patch of forest that we've been growing behind the centre on what was once a pretty barren wasteland. And it still gets trashed fairly frequently by people who go there to drink out of the side of others and take other substances. But in the midst of that trashing, the trees that we planted probably nearly 10 years ago now, puriri, kowhai, manaka, plus a cherry and a plum, have just faithfully, steadfastly grown. And what were once saplings that we could transport from the garden centre to the centre in a car with the tree poking out the back window, and now tall trees, 6 metres plus. Trees have a kind of an innate faith that we can learn something from. They put down roots, they find the nutrients, and they grow. And just as proof that we really have got something really alive back there, if not always treated well. When I was there looking at the garden, I was greeted by a fantail, an extremely friendly and inquisitive fantail, flitting around in the puriri trees. planting a tree is a special kind of dream that we have, which can turn into reality bit by bit. She continues, over the past few decades in my own life, I can tell you that there's not a single moment when I haven't witnessed my dreams becoming real. Our dreams can become real. Indeed, they are already becoming real. Dreams may never be realized 100%, but each day they can slowly become more and more real. Something so real we can touch them right in the present moment. The center is, we could say, the becoming real of a dream. Not necessarily realized 100%, but little by little coming to fruition. In fact, if our dreams became realized at 100%, things would not be very interesting. The unfinished nature of our lives and our work is its dynamism, its force. She goes on, in Mahayana Buddhism, cultivating a deep aspiration is a very important practice. In order to become a true bodhisattva, you need a deep aspiration. The aspiration to transform yourself and to help others transform themselves. You need to have an aspiration. In fact, it's one of the Eightfold Path, right? Aspiration. The second. So she says, you need to have an aspiration, and yet you can also practice aimlessness or businesslessness. Businesslessness. It's a hard one to say, as Master Linji called it. But I think we'll stick with aimlessness. Aimlessness means don't put something out in front of you and try to attain it. Another way to understand it is like this. You are already what you want to become. Don't underestimate yourself. In this very moment, everything is here. You don't need to seek any more. Everything is already here. Everything you're looking for, whether it's peace, well-being, happiness, or love, they all are already here. There's no need to keep searching. When she says there's no need to keep searching, that is, there's no need to keep searching outside ourselves. We search our minds. That we need to do until we've got to the very bottom. The present moment contains the past and the future. If you know how to live your aspiration deeply in the present moment, you touch eternity. In Buddhism, the means and the ends should be identical. There is no path leading to happiness. The path is happiness itself. There is no practice that leads to healing and transformation. The practice should be healing and transformation itself. You have a deep aspiration, but you can also practice aimlessness. It's perfectly possible. Sometimes you hear it said, oh, the ends justify the means. This was an argument from the likes of Lenin and Stalin. The ends justify the means. But not ever could we say that in Buddhism, because it's understood that the means shape the ends. How we do something, what our motivation is, affects the end result. And that's why she writes here that the means and ends should be identical. If we understand that the way that we do something is already taking us to a certain result. We will willingly look for that accord. And this isn't only something that you find in Buddhism. There's a Advaita Vedanta teacher called Adya Shanti, and he says, meditation is neither a means to an end or something to perfect. Meditation done correctly is an expression of reality, not a path to it. Meditation done incorrectly is a perfect mirror of how you are resisting the present moment. Another way of talking about this is that meditation is something we are rather than something we do. This aimlessness that she's been talking about is listed in a group of three called the 3 Doors of Liberation. The other 2 are emptiness and signlessness. So emptiness of our inner world, the mind, emptiness of the outer world, this where we live and move, and emptiness of in-between, the emptiness of the self and other relationship. Then signlessness is without words and concepts and labels. Remember, these are called the 3 Doors of Liberation. And the final one, aimlessness or desirelessness. We're not going anywhere, we're resting where we are. And in what we are, we have it all already, we have it all from the beginning. Aimlessness means releasing even the desire for the fruits of practice. So our dreams and desires for peace and well-being and happiness and love and so forth can help to get us into the zendo and onto the mat. But once we're there, then to drop the aims, to drop the desires and just be the practice. Next section, also from Sister True Dedication, and this one is headed up, Do You Dare to Dream? As an engaged meditator, the energy of aspiration is one of the most essential elements of our path. We can ask ourselves, what state is my life's aspiration in? If it's a bit depleted, we can rekindle it. If it's still only a vague idea, we can try and crystallize it. If we found it before, but over time we've slowly let it go, we have to get it back. If it's buried deep, we can skillfully find a way for it to reveal itself. So this conscious checking on our aspiration. What is it that we deep down are working for? Coming back to the sitting again and again for. Coming to sesshin after sesshin. She continues, there's sometimes a misunderstanding that the acceptance and equanimity of a meditator leads to a kind of serene or cold indifference in the face of the world's suffering. This word serene, when we advertised the public talk that Roshi was supposed to give, we had a little piece in the Onihonga News, and the editor changed the word that we had for our 20 years of, I don't remember what it was now, but replaced it with 20 years of serenity. This doesn't convey. Serenity seems to imply some kind of separation, untouchability. In fact, the art of meditation is to reveal the truth and the path forward. Once we can see and understand how the world's suffering has come to be, right away we can also see how to transform it. There's a dynamism in the meditator's understanding of the world. Insight and understanding suffering gives rise to compassion and a deep wish to protect and to nurture life. As a student of the path of bodhisattvas, our aspiration is a seed of vitality, a life force sustaining our journey. So we should look for that dynamism of understanding turning into action, appropriate action. Skillful means is the classic way of looking at it. Represented by the bodhisattva Samantabhadra riding on an elephant. There's a difference between ambition and aspiration. Making money, achieving a certain success, influence, position or status are only external markers that society tells us we should realize. We may have been pursuing them without knowing it. Aspiration is much deeper than that. Aspiration is about what we really want to contribute to the world in this lifetime. Every one of us has only a certain time on this earth, and that time passes in a flash. To hone and articulate what we wish to contribute gives kind of shape to our lives, and it involves having confidence that we do have something to give. Every single person has this. It has to uncover it or bring it forth. She goes on, I remember when I was a young journalist, someone said to me that if I continued working hard, one day I might be able to be a program editor with a capital E. It was a big word and it sounded impressive, but something about it snagged, and I kept thinking about it. If I keep going one day, ... At the time, I had a practice of reciting the 5 remembrances before I went to sleep, reminding myself silently, breath by breath, that I am of the nature to get sick, to get old, to die, to be separated from those I love, and that there is nothing I can do to escape that fact. The last line is to remember that I can take nothing with me when I die. My actions of body, speech and mind are my only continuation. I began to realize that dying is a very intimate, private moment of reckoning. I will want to know, have I been true to myself? Have I done my best to live well and do what I wanted to do with this one precious life? It's a good way of putting it here. a very private moment of reckoning. Alone we are born and die alone. One day it suddenly struck me that if I kept going on the same track, my gravestone would say Natasha Phillips, BBC editor. I immediately realized I didn't want that. The next thought was, I'd rather die than have that on my gravestone. Of course, if she did die, she would have it on her gravestone. Many extraordinary people have contributed wonderful things to society as BBC editors, but I saw that for me it was not the right path. The next realization was that no matter what the gravestone says, on my deathbed I'll be confronted, above all, with my own relationship with myself. I'll be confronted above all with my own relationship with myself. Isn't this what we all struggle with, our relationship with ourselves? What we say in with our inner voice or voices. But at death, we profoundly need to face the nature of our soul, we could say. On my deathbed, I'll be confronted, above all, with my own relationship with myself. Will I have done what is most important to me? How can I not betray this chance to be alive, to heal and transform not only my own junk, but also the junk of my ancestors and culture? We inherit so much delusion that we have to work with. Jung said our major achievement would be to not repeat the mistakes of my parents. How do I need to live my minutes and hours so I can be at peace on my deathbed? It was a new ground on which to stand to make decisions about my life. I had a deeper sense of what life lived well might feel like from the inside, and it gave me a wellspring of courage to walk a less trodden path. I'm going to skip forward a bit. This is now Thich Nhat Hanh talking again. Aspiration or volition is one of the four nutriments. Another kind of nutriment is what we call in Buddhism sense impressions. What we hear, see, touch and smell. When we watch movies and TV series, we consume. When we go online, we consume. When we read a book or magazine or listen to music, we consume. Even when we have a conversation, we are consuming that conversation. What another person says may be full of hatred and despair, and when we bring these things into our body and mind, it can be very toxic. The news can have a lot of anger, fear, anxiety, and hatred in it. We want to have some kind of excitement, and we pick up our phone, our laptop, or a book or magazine, expecting to get it. We're looking for images and sounds that take us away from the discomfort we're experiencing in the present moment and cover up the suffering inside. When we search for some stimulation, it's not exactly because we need these things, but we're doing anything we can to avoid encountering ourselves. And we can get addicted to these things and yet never get the kind of fulfillment we need. We need love, we need peace, and it's only because we don't yet know how to generate that love and peace inside that we are looking for it outside of ourselves. The Buddha advised us to go home without fear, to breathe and walk mindfully, to develop enough energy of mindfulness and concentration and insight and courage to be able to take care of the loneliness and suffering that is there. With some training, you can bring your mind back to your body, to unite body and mind, and create moments that can bring you love and joy. Bring your body back to bring your mind back to reunite with the body. We can be doing one thing with our mind and one thing with our body. Sometimes people ask me, beginners who are starting off, how to practice at home. And one of the ways of answering that question is to just suggest that when you're doing any activity, bring your whole body and mind to it. So if it's something repetitious, that one was done 1,000,000 times, it doesn't require much thinking or mental exertion, still to do that activity with the mind right there, doing whatever it is. Or if you're doing something that is mostly cerebral, then we may not bring our body to that action. So to bring the body, so for instance, if you're sitting at your computer, to be aware of your posture, then mind and body are working as one. Bringing our minds back to our bodies, bringing our bodies back to our minds. And the more we can do this, then the more we will appreciate and be revived by what's around us. He says, when you are truly there, you look outside and you realize that the rain is there and it is wonderful. The trees are there and they're beautiful. The air is surprisingly fresh. Breathing in and out, you encounter the wonders of the present moment. This morning was such a morning as that. It was so cold and fresh. The air was just beautiful to inhale. So often we miss the present moment. That was what the Buddha's Great Awakening discovered. Wonder and wonders of wonders, he said, on seeing the morning star. He goes on, I remember in the early 1970s I was representing the Vietnamese Buddhist peace delegation at the Paris peace talks. We had so many things to worry about. The bombs were falling every day and so many people were dying. My mind was concentrated on how to help stop the war, how to stop the killing. And I did not have time to get in touch with the wonders of life that can be refreshing and healing. And so I didn't get the nutriments I needed. Sister Chang Kong was there as part of the delegation assisting me, and one day she prepared a basket of fresh, fragrant herbs. In Vietnam, every meal is served with the leaves of fresh herbs, and I marveled. I had not had time to think of things like fragrant herbs and the wonders of life. That moment taught me a lot, that I shouldn't allow myself to be drowned in the work. I should set aside time to live, to get in touch with the refreshing and healing elements within and around me. That day I was able to restore my balance thanks to a plate of fragrant herbs presented to me by Sister Chang Kong. Those of us who are activists are always eager to succeed in our efforts to help the world, but if we don't maintain a kind of balance between our work and nourishing ourselves, we won't be able to get very far. This is why practicing walking meditation, mindfulness breathing, and getting in touch with the refreshing and healing elements in and around us is crucial for our survival. These are skills, they're meditative skills. Walking, sitting, breathing, paying attention. It continues. Don't wait until tomorrow to cut through your afflictions. You must do it today. Sometimes we hesitate and we continue to be entangled in our difficulties month after month, year after year. We can't get out of them. The warrior in us really wants to be free. The meditator in us wants to transcend the situation, and yet we allow our suffering to keep dragging us down. We want to put an end to the situation, but the warrior in us has not come into action, and that's why the meditator in us feels imprisoned. Whenever we've craved something, whether it's food, alcohol, or sensual pleasures, we can easily become a victim of our craving and lose our freedom. The objects of our craving are deceptively tempting, but there's a hidden hook that catches us. The way out is to recognize the hook as soon as you can, so you can set yourself free. The way is to recognize the hook so you can set yourself free. The warrior uses the sword of insight to cut through all affliction and craving, and the warrior has to do it now. The warrior declares, I can't wait, I must be free. And when we look at it dispassionately, this moment is actually the only moment when we can realize our nature. It's the only moment when we can release our suffering, because there's only this moment. Thich Nhat Hanh here talks about the warrior, but no doubt he's referring to Manjushri, who sits on our altar during Sesshin, wielding his sword, his delusion-cutting sword. He lops off attachments. It's important to note that he doesn't have to hack them off or saw them off. It's light. It's very light, because his lopping off attachments is seeing them as empty already, insubstantial. The iconography of Manjushri is that he's a youth, a young man. And if you look at the figure, he's not muscle-bound, not a strong man, but a dancer. Whatever it is that is tempting you, whatever it is that has taken control of your life, Whatever habit it is that has entangled you and made you suffer so much already, use the sword of wisdom to break free. Right now, today, straight away, you make the determination not to go in that direction anymore. It's now or never. Give the warrior in you a chance to take action, to take out the sword and cut yourself free. Not tonight, not tomorrow, but right in this instant. Because there is only this instant. There can be no waiting. Waiting divides time. If you want peace, peace will be there right away. You declare, I want to be free. I refuse to be dependent. I refuse to be a slave to the object of your craving, whatever it is. You want to be free, you want peace. The question is whether you want it enough. That's the key. If you're not free yet, if you haven't got the freedom, peace, and healing you're looking for, it's because you don't want it enough yet. You have to really want it, as though your life depends on it. Your determination to be free comes from your awakening. You see you've suffered too much long already. You've had enough. You want out. You don't want to continue like that even for one more day. That's the awakening. And from that place of awakening, you resolve to be free. It's our true nature that longs to be realized. And we have to see that clearly and then let go, release what stands between us and realizing that. He says, your determination to be free comes from your awakening. It sounds, and it would be so nice if it was just a once and for all thing, but we have to do this again and again when we see ourselves attached, again and again, to release that attachment, return to this present moment. There's a Zen story about a man on a horse galloping very quickly. At the crossroads, a friend of his shouted, "Where are you going?" And the man replied, "I don't know, ask the horse." And that is the situation of humanity right now. In our times, that horse is technology. It is carrying us off and it's out of control. This was written before AI entered the news so much, which only just reinforces what he's talking about here. He says, early on, Google had the motto, "Don't be evil." Is that realistic? Is it possible? Can you make a lot of money without being evil? That's what they're trying to do, but so far not very successfully. Technology is making us alienated from ourselves, from our family, and from nature. And yet nature has the power to heal and nourish. But we spend so much time with our computer that we are no longer there for ourselves, our family, or Mother Earth. And that means civilization is going in a wrong direction. The way we are making money may not kill anyone, may not rob anyone, but it is costing us our life, our happiness, and the life and happiness of our loved ones and Mother Earth. The truth is that instead of getting used to the insights of science, instead of using the insights of science and technology to save the planet, the market is using technology to satisfy our desires and exploit the Earth further. The problem is that we are using technology mostly to satisfy our cravings and take us out of the present moment. We do have enough technology to save us and the Earth, but the willingness to make use of it has not been there yet. It's there in patches, we could say. The question is, how can technology become a force for integration rather than destruction? How can tech companies innovate in such a way as to help people take care of themselves, take care of their workers, and take care of the earth? Just had the example in the last days of the power of algorithms to have extremely negative effects. The young man who killed the little girls in the north of England, rumours went round that he was Muslim and that he was an asylum seeker, neither of which were true. He was from a Christian family. But these rumours were going around social media and were used as the pretext for the riots. So the algorithm is set up to favour conflict, outrage, and not truth. We can consider our store consciousness as a kind of basement, and the mind consciousness. This is he's moving on to talk about the next of these nutriments, consciousness. We'll just read a little bit of it. I don't think we've got time to cover all of it, unfortunately, but we'll just finish up with this passage here. We can consider our store consciousness, that's the alaya vijnana, the repository of all our sense impressions, as a kind of basement. The mind consciousness is a kind of living room. We have the tendency to put anything we don't like in the basement. We want to keep the living room beautiful. The same is true with our suffering, but the blocks of suffering in you don't want to stay in the basement, and if they become too strong, they push the door open and settle in the living room without your invitation, especially during the night. When you have no means of control, they push open the door and go up into mind consciousness. This happens when we're not fully awake, and so we're vulnerable to these night fears and anxieties. Sometimes if there's a persistent and strong, I suggest to people to actually get up, wake up a bit more, and sit for a while, then try sleeping again, because they can really be corrosive, these worries and thoughts at this time of night. During the day also, violence, craving, hate and anger may be pushing hard because you have allowed them to grow through your way of consuming. You may try to resist, you lock the door, you set up a kind of embargo between the living room and the basement, and you repress what is down there. And how do you repress? You try to fill up mind consciousness by consuming. You feel uncomfortable, restless, you feel something is coming up, and so you switch on some music. You pick up the phone, you turn on the TV, you head out to go somewhere. You do everything to keep the living room occupied so that the blocks of pain won't have a chance to come up. But many of the things we consume in these moments may also contain a lot of toxins. And while we are consuming them, the poisons of craving, hate and violence fall down into store consciousness, and they only make the blocks of suffering bigger. This is a very dangerous situation. So the first step is to stop watering those seeds to prevent them from growing. You have to establish a strategy of mindful consuming with your loved ones and friends, a strategy to support and protect each other. Especially we can do this in relation to the media. Who and what do we expose ourselves to? A little bit further on, he talks about bad circulation in our consciousness. So talking about the way things can get lodged and we don't move through them. He says, with mindfulness you respond differently. You can allow the pain to come up. You can recognize it, embrace it tenderly, and look deeply into it. Embraced with the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and compassion, your pain will go down, losing some of its strength. And the next time it comes up, you allow it to come up because you know how to handle it. After a few weeks of practicing like this, you can restore a state of good circulation in your consciousness. The practice of mindfulness can be very healing. I think we'll stop here and recite the 4 vows. All beings without number, I vow to liberate.
The teaching you have received is offered freely. If you would like to make a donation to support the continuation of this podcast service or learn more about practice opportunities at the Auckland Zen Centre, please visit www.aucklandzen.org.nz.